So have you ever shared with your mother how watching her impacted you at that
Definitely.
age?
Definitely. I used to always, my mom traveled a lot when I was a kid. So there were times where I wanted her at games and wanted her at different things, but I recognized looking back, the sacrifices that we have to make to become successful and to be able
Right.
to provide for a family. And then the conversations that I would see between my mom and my dad as my mom could continue to grow in her career, how it was more so of an understanding and a commitment that this is what needed to be done in order to advance this legacy that we were trying to build. So now moving forward as a 29-year-old male now, I have these conversations. Like I was like, mom, I get my ability to focus on my career from my mom, but my passion for my community and the integrity and the rootness or the foundation that I have in God and my faith, that definitely comes from my dad. So all of my intrinsic characteristics, I believe, come from my father, but all of my ability to grow professionally and have the skill sets and transferable skills to grow my future definitely come from my mom. So they're like the perfect pair, and they've been married. This year will be 30 years.
That is so beautiful. I'm so glad you said all that. Just that is such an honor to your parents that you recognize what you gained from both of them and you can articulate it and appreciate it in the present. Like that's the stuff that parenthood is made of. So well done to your parents. I'm sure they are
Definitely,
so proud.
definitely.
So I want to talk about. So you mentioned that you have several degrees and that you attended college and all of that. What was the deciding factor in you not going to Stanford?
I wanted to play basketball, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play ball at Stanford. It was really just an academic scholarship. And one thing that I realized, and any athlete that's going to be listening to this, if you're a student athlete in school right now, or if you're a parent that has a student athlete at home, I went through a major identity shift when I stopped playing basketball and when I stopped being an athlete. And what I mean is that an identity shift, like depression happened. And
Mm.
I did not know who I was, because any parent that's investing in their kid from, grade school. You've been investing in your child from 6, 7 years old, and you're in Pop Warner and then traveling and then all of this investment in money. So that's what a child knows. And then they go watch the game, whether it's sport or whether it's basketball, football, tennis, whatever it is. So your whole life, you want to be on the big stage. And when you recognize that you've been working for almost 20 years and you won't go pro, or you won't start on a team, or you won't make that next leap, you have to essentially redefine who you are in the present. So when I stopped playing, I was like, oh my gosh. And what I learned to do is entrepreneurship is now my new basketball game. Like the preparation that I have coming into podcasts or going into speeches is like the preparation and practice before the game. When I'm on stage or when I'm in meetings or these different things is actual game time, because there's going to be controversy. There's going to be angry fans. There's going to be angry customers. All of those transferable skills and the things that you experienced as an athlete prepared me to actually be a business owner. It's the same exact stuff. The pressures, the anxiety, the last minute calls. Sometimes you have to change plays. Sometimes you have to bring on new team members or remove team members. Everybody doesn't make it to the championship game. You potentially have injuries internally or externally that affect your business. So I've learned how to mature my mind in a way to look at, okay, basketball's over, but this is my new basketball game, so that I can appreciate it the same.
Wow, that's good perspective. Your entrepreneurship is your new basketball.
Yeah.
That interest, that talent, and like you said, transferable skills, and you have something that energizes you to be able to have the fortitude to continue to do it. That's phenomenal. So, can you talk a little bit about your first professional job out of college? I mean, you had some entrepreneurship under your belt, but you did go to college and you did perhaps pursue a career based on what you majored in.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, your first professional job, and then what led to you making the shift to full-time entrepreneurship?
Of course. So I took a job with Johnson and Johnson after school. I was a pharmaceutical rep for Janssen Biotech, which is their specialty drug division. I came out of college making roughly $97,000. So I was almost at six figures, and I believe I was making the most out of all of my peers. And the only reason that I took that job is because around 6 months before I graduated college, I was on the plane flying back home, and I met a man on that plane. He was sitting next to me, and I remember what I was reading. I was reading The Prince by Machiavelli. And he was like, "Son, how old are you?" And I said, "I'm a senior in college. My name is Kyle King. I'm doing X, Y, Z, boom, 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 boom." And he said, "When you get ready to graduate, I want you to call me." And he gave me his card. And I'll never forget this. And literally about 2 months before I graduated, and I was going to go work for Northrop Grumman, I had the USDA. I could have went and worked for a lot of different organizations that were offering me. And I called him, and he said, "We have a job available for you. I remember you." He said, "Send me over your resume and let's bring you in." And they had a program that was going to take me through all of the different areas of their business to groom me to being on like a CEO track or on a vice president track. And I got fired.
From day one.
From day one. I got fired.
Right.
I got fired 8 months in. 8 months into the job, I got fired from the job. And at this time, I had a 1-year-old son. I was living with my parents. They took my company car, my company phone, my company computer. And what I had to realize is that my parents then said, "You had 30 days. You had 30 days to figure it out, or we're gonna put you out. We're gonna cut you off." And at this time, I was a father, and it really hit me a little bit differently. And I had a book that I had been sitting on for years. I just never launched it. And 30 days after the date that I got fired, I generated $20,000 in pre-sales on that book, just by leveraging my network, just by leveraging the people in my life. And I never looked back from there.
Wow. Wow. That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wow. That's what you did with your back against the wall. How about that?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So that's where I was. And I think what I learned from that is that sometimes, and we all heard the concept that pressure is going to do two things. It's going to burst pipes or it's going to create diamonds, right? But for me, interestingly, everyone in their life has dealt with pressure in some type of way. But when they get into a new atmosphere, they believe that pressure is different. Like the pressure of an entrepreneur is different when you're racing to get ready for that test at the end of the week that you forgot to prepare for, or that pressure when you're trying to ask that girl to prom, or the pressure of you having to clean up your whole house and do all of your chores when your parents tell you they're 30 minutes from the house. The same pressure and that feeling of anxiety never changes. The atmosphere and the circumstance changes. So if you go back in your mind and really reflect on the time where you got through it, where you got over that hurdle, where you made a miracle out of that mistake, where you triumphed from that trial, then every situation you'll be able to get through. You just have to re-identify it when I've already done this and use that specific mindset in this specific season.
Wow. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about something. I want to take a step back. I want you to put your hat on as educator talking to young people. So in the spirit of talking about individuals who find their purpose early on, or maybe before they complete a path like earning a college degree, because a lot of people do that. Like I said, especially in this community, you have people like Oprah, who started college, she didn't finish. She didn't need to because she found her purpose early on. People like Richard Branson, Mark Zuckerberg. You know who else falls into this category? Now, this is just based on my research, but I believe it. Snoop Dogg is in this category. Alicia Keys is one as well. So when somebody has a passion for something, what advice would you give them if they are at a crossroads? Like I said, it could be before they finish college. It could be even before they start. What advice would you give them about taking that leap to pursue that one thing that they have on their heart?
Of course, my advice to anybody that has a passion that they want to pursue is passion isn't enough. And I know that's one of the things that you probably don't want to hear, but I was passionate about a lot of things that failed. Preparation is what you need. Confidence is not enough. Passion is not enough. Skill is not enough. There's a lot of talented people that are not living their purpose because they weren't willing to commit to the process. There's three things that you need in life. There's consistency. You have to stay consistent. And through your consistency, either you're going to fail your way to success or learn your way to success. You have to stay focused and committed on the process. That's number one. Number two is competency. You got to learn something. Even though you're gifted, even though you have a passion, even though you may have talents or skill sets, you have to be an expert in what you're specifically doing. I don't want you to just go learn everything about everything. I want you to be the subject matter expert in that specific thing. I want you to begin to go deep instead of going wide. If somebody needed a neurosurgeon, the best neurosurgeon in the world, why would they call you? If somebody needed the best software developer or engineer, if the world was under crisis and they needed that one person to solve the one problem that you know how to solve, I need you to be the number one person in that specific field. And then number three is capital. You need either human capital and resources through people or actual financial capital. And when you think about financial capital, you may be a student, so you don't have any money. So you need to build relationships with either people that understand how funding is deployed. So people that work within the banking system or understand real estate. Number two is people that are wealthy and have money, or people that have an ability to sell or they know how to generate revenue or make money. If you understand those three things, that will allow you to prepare yourself to then take the leap from an intellectual standpoint, from a mature standpoint, instead of just jumping out on passion and having this false sense of I'm jumping out on faith, and now you falling on your face.
Well said. That was very succinct, very succinct. Okay, so now I want you to put your parent hat on. Okay. When you think about your little boy that you love and adore, what would you like for him to know about you as his dad, as far as what the choices that you made for him and the legacy that you want to leave for him?
That is a great question. So interestingly, my next book is going to be written to him, right? So the first thing that I would say to him is that I love you and that you are good enough, and don't care about anything that the world thinks. And one of the biggest choices that I regret is worrying about the world instead of worrying about my calling. Because when you're working towards your calling instead of worrying about the world, then you actually reach your purpose. And I want everybody to listen to that. Stop worrying about the world and start working towards your calling. So that's the first thing, because fulfillment is the definition of success. Fulfillment, freedom, and peace. I don't care if he is an engineer. I don't care if he's a software developer. I don't care if you're an artist. I don't care if you're creative. I don't care if you're a musician or an entrepreneur. If you're fulfilled, if you're free and you're peaceful, then that's all I need you to acquire. Because everything that I've done, I've went through all of the times of unpeace. I've went through all of the times of sacrifice. I've went through all of the times where I was not free of choice, to now when I am fulfilled in freedom and feeling peaceful. And now it may not align with what society has for me, but it does align with what God had in store for me the whole time. So yes, he's still going to have his challenges. Yes, he's still going to be able to go through his stuff. But the reality of it is our jobs as parents is to guide, to support, and to serve as resources to expose our children to everything that they need and they want. It's not our job to tell them what they're going to do. It's our job to tell them what's out there for them to potentially do, and what they choose. Once they choose it, even if it's for 3 months, once they choose it, it's our job to expose them and have the resources, the knowledge, and the love for our children to be able to push them in that way so that they can expose themselves to everything. And I love my parents so much because I did everything as a kid. I was in a medical program, a music program. I was on the swim team, basketball, football, baseball. It wasn't just sports. It was educational programs. It was leadership programs. I didn't do ROTC or anything of that nature, but they allowed me to explore my creativity in so many different ways. And that's why I built a computer when I was 11 years old, and we still have pictures of it. And that's why I was able to go into these medical programs and learn how to tie a knot with one hand as if I wanted to be a surgeon. And I still know these things from this day because I had parents that exposed me to everything that I wanted. So instead of just giving your kid another video game, teach them that there's a possibility of them creating a video game. Put them in a coding class instead of just giving them a Nintendo Switch.
Amen. Amen. Wow. So when you think about all the things that you have been working on that have led you to this point, and all the things that you know that you want to do in the future, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I was on a call last week and it said, who has a 5-year plan? And everybody raised their hand. And then the question was, we don't even know if we're going to be here for 5 years. What's your 5-hour plan? And if you only had 5 hours, what would you be doing? And I live off of 5 things, literally 5 things. Number one is I want to be able to die one day. We're all going to die. And I want to be known, number one, as a father that was truly there for his children, present in his children's life, an admirable man in the community, and somebody who served his family in the same way that God serves us every single day. Number two is I want to be able to marry one day and have a wife that I'm proud of, because I believe that women are the tide and men are the ships. And as we continue to empower our women in our community, I will be, continue to rise as a man as well. Number three is, like I talked about my father's background and my mother's background, I'm starting a boarding school for young Black boys here in America. And if they didn't come from, backgrounds similar to mine, I want to be able to provide them with a school and a home so that they can be able to move into and transition into Ivy League as educational institutions completely for free. Number four is I want to be able to start a sustainable community for my community. And we're getting ready to launch the Maryland project, which will acquire 75 acres of land, and it'll be 75 container home properties, affordable housing community. And then after that, number four, for me, we're getting ready to launch an educational technology our projections is to show that we'll reach 50 million kids throughout the lifetime of that, of that innovation. And it will be similar to what the metaverse has in store. And my goal from that is to win a Nobel Peace Prize. And then my last thing is I want to be able to die empty. And what I mean by that is not from a resource standpoint, like y'all aren't getting all the money, but from a experience standpoint. If I had 5 hours to live right now, I have 7 books to show what got me to year 29. So I know for a fact that my son will at least be able to have the strategies, the skill sets, the methodologies, the techniques to get him to where I am today. And then it will be up to his counsel that I've already established and put in place to then get him to the next step. So my legacy is stored in service, is stored in stories, and is stored in the ability to see yourself as successful, not based upon society's view, but what God has inside of you.
Wow. Wow, Kyle, that is phenomenal. That's amazing. That's amazing. You are such a thoughtful person. There are people twice your age who have not given their life this much thought and reflection.
Thank you.
That's phenomenal. All right. This has been an awesome, awesome conversation. So can you share with the audience, if anyone would like to reach out to you or work with you in any capacity, how can they find you?
Of course, on LinkedIn, Kyle S. King, on YouTube, Kyle S. King, and on Instagram, Kyle S. King. It's pretty easy to find.
That is. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kyle. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope I can have you back.
Of course, anytime.
All right. Thank you.